Hello and welcome to Enter the Dragonair's Den, the official Pokemon Go PvP podcast of the Battle Frontier. I am TacoDog8.
And I am JetForceGemini.
And if you're new around here, welcome. You picked a really good episode to join in, as the regular season has ended as of this recording for the upper tiers. If you're not new around here, please see what I just said beforehand, because it's playoffs time for the open tiers. So if you're in the upper tiers, this will be the last time we talk about you up until we have a very special episode planned for our reactions to what the tiers will look like at the end of the cycle. So don't go anywhere. Jet, how was your week?
It was pretty good, apart from my Zarude rule, but you know,
How bad?
we
How bad was it?
we hit the floor, which at least I can say hasn't happened before. So yeah. Anyway,
Did you get a taco perfect?
if that's what the floor means, then yeah.
Yes.
Then yes, it was clean. It was fully the worst one possible. So yeah, that was the one. But yeah, apart from that, it was good. I will say that I know we usually talk about GBL at the end, but I hopped in and did a couple matches after watching some of the Vancouver regional stuff, just because like Open Great League is back. I was like, oh, I should start playing GBL again. And if you want to guess what the first team was I played against?
Which one was it? I'm scared to ask.
It was the now staple Wiggly Basti Shadowbick.
Oh no.
Which is fine because the team I run handles pretty much every variation of it pretty easily. But it was just like, okay, yeah, this is GVL now, I guess. This is just what we're doing. How was your week?
My week was pretty good. I finally used my Master Ball on something that I thought was necessary. I got a Hundo Groudon just in time for it to be outclassed by Sanseer Storm Landorus. Unfortunately, it took all my Premier Balls, and when I got to the last ball, I said, I'm not chancing it. Master Ball, let's do this.
That was my follow-up question, is like, how did you actually use as many chances as you could? But because the version I saw was just, hey, I used my Master Ball. So this is good backstory.
Yeah, so we did like, I think it was one of the last raids of the day. I said, I said out of my luck, I was like, I'm not gonna, if I don't get a shiny, I'm gonna get the Hundo, and then the Hundo is gonna run away from me unless I do something like use a Master Ball. So I didn't get the shiny, and then I look at it, I was like 2351. Son of a gun! And so everyone's like, you're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get it. Like doing like this like circle of death chant or something. And I did about 13 excellent curveball throws, and not gonna happen. I said, all right, Master Ball. And everyone goes,
you were the son of prophecy at that moment.
yeah. So that everyone goes, oh, you have to use your Master Ball. It was such a massive skill issue. And there was one player in our local that talks a lot of smack, and I said, at least I have Master Balls to use, and I didn't just say, oh, I can't do the seasonal research because I have such a skill issue, I couldn't even get the one. And the entire group then went from dunking on me to dunking on him, so. Usually
That's rough, buddy.
Usually I would not be in favor of in real life bullying, but if you're gonna come for, somebody, you got to make sure that you can take the heat. Otherwise,
yeah, no, that's the truism. That's the if you're gonna dish it, you got to be ready.
100%. PSA to all of you bullies out there: if you bully and you can't take the heat, you should probably not bully anymore. Because bullying is bad.
Get out of the kitchen.
General PSA's out of the way though. The rest of the week was good. I put in about 62 miles of riding this week, which I thought was a pretty good week back. I was very, very cold though, but I was just trying to ride again. My legs are still sore, but all in all, it was a very good week.
I mean, it's got to be a decent amount of extra work when you have to, ride with the igloo built around you.
Yeah, it can get a little rough, especially when of course, since it's colder up here, not in like it's sunny and 80-degree weather year round. Unfortunately, I moved next to a school, and when I ride, you can only see like this part of my face. Like you can only see my eyes. So when I'm riding, and then of course I have my helmet on, and I look like the most like you can see me on the road because I've got lights and all this other stuff, and all the parents look at me like, "What is that crazy person doing?" And then
you're the mass bandit.
Yeah, I'm just like, just trying to get to work, like I don't have the luxury of using cars. Luckily, the kids who live on my street now see me as the bicycle man. That's what I've been affectionately called.
They got to put you in a box. At least you chose yours.
Yeah. The other ones that, drop their kids off and they just stare at me and I go, look, I ain't doing anything wrong. I'm just riding my bicycle.
We chilling.
Yeah. So that was my week, and now I have to prep for my local cup on Saturday, and I have done a zero amount of prep for it. But
it's cool. You can just copy Zimmy's team.
He's got some Pokemon that I don't have, and this needs to be the team that destroys Home Slice Henry in the field. Like, it's got to be official. He's my Iowa rival now.
It's a good rival to have.
Yeah, honestly. So, with pleasantries and introductions out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into some Niantic and Battle Frontier news. Starting with April events have been announced, or announced per se. We've got the raid hours, the mega raids, and the spotlight hours. But
are you so excited for the bug hour?
No, absolutely not. I'm more... Well, actually, I am, but I'm not. I'm more excited for the Trubbish Spotlight Hour, because that's 500 Stardust a pop. And... Oh, wait. That's 2 times catch XP. I read that wrong. I was reading it as Stardust. But anyway...
They do suffer from the same illness that the Combies do, though, which is that they are an uncomfortable catch.
Yeah. So I'll be walking around looking like the local maniac because there's a school nearby, but I'll be catching my Pokemon. But 500 Stardust per catch. I guess the Weedle, Caterpie... I mean, Weedle can be a pain in the butt a little bit compared to the other two. But, it's catch Stardust, so it's something, I guess.
And, I mean, they are relatively easy catches, which is nice. You can just kind of fire and forget with those. And then, even if you do run into a shiny, I feel like it would be the easiest thing in the world to just maybe Shundo check and then... release it back into the wild.
Pretty much. I think I've gotten to that point when I play Pogo now, where I'll get like 30 something shinies in a community day, and then like right afterwards I'll hold on to them for like 3 months and then trash them.
Yeah.
I don't need a living dex of 1100 shinies. Like, no thank you.
Yeah. I will say, so 2 things just on upcoming events / the last few that we've had that I feel have been just really nice for quality of life is that it seems like they're going out of their way to include Pokemon in each event that are worth bonus dust. So even if the event itself isn't super interesting, that there's still something to go out and catch. And the Shroomish this last event were everywhere. It was so nice. And like you said, 500 a pop for relatively easy catch is just real nice. And then for the potential premium items, I feel like we have to talk about just I forget what the official name is, but the big and small event coming up next.
Sizable surprises.
Yeah, whatever. I have learned from the last few, how do I say this, broad range showcases that they've had, that, you know, those Alolan Executor are the biggest out of anything. So if you have a chance to get those XXLs, they will pay off. So that alone is worth picking up.
Gotcha. Okay. I gotta save that for next time. I think I have no XXL Alolan Executors, but I have like the biggest one. It was only good enough for like a 9th place finish.
Yeah, well, and that was like the crazy thing, that I had kind of quickly just thought about, oh yeah, what's going to be back when it was the dragon type showcase, you know, like, oh, what's going to be the biggest dragon? So just kind of looking at Pokedex entries for size and stuff is like, oh, you know, probably like Guzzlord or whatever. It's like crazy high weight, and of course, nope, Executor. It's not legendary or an ultra beast. It's just the palm tree.
I mean, you have to remember those memes of Alolan Executor where it's just like how large. I think it's like its Dex entry. It says it's 40 feet tall. Like it rivals Wailord on that. Or no, I think Wailord was 20 feet or like 20 feet long, and like 12 feet tall, but Alolan Executor is like 40 feet tall and like 4 feet wide. So it's
like even the average ones that I have are 10 meters, so it adds.
I know Pokemon Dex entry or Pokedex entries make absolutely no sense, but it's still fun to look at.
Yeah, don't take them too literally, because clearly they just like to throw big numbers around without really thinking about the consequences. Like the fire types are the most notorious for, oh cool, you know, the snail is hotter than the surface of the sun. Great, nice. It would blind anyone instantly just by being nearby.
And don't even get me started on base stats, where you can have like a Latios that has a base stat of 100 speed, but a fat cat named Perugly has a base stat of 102.
Yeah, well, and that's like where you kind of just can't make the broad applications to, oh, okay, so how would these actually like compare as real creatures? It's just, they don't.
I would just say, here's my before we veer back into Pokemon Go, I'm going to steer us off the rails for a second. In the main series game, why don't they just make the scale? Because I know that they limit themselves to a scale of like 600. I think the highest scale it goes up to is like 740 with like Mega Rayquaza. No, it's 720. Why not they
well, you're talking about stat total.
Yeah, like stat total. Why not they just make it, if like 720 is the highest, go up to 1,000, like a flat 1,000, and then just adjust as needed from there. I have not done any research as to how crazy that would be, but that would still be pretty cool.
And I mean, I don't hate just kind of that recalibration in a general way. It's more, we know they won't, because it would be a decent amount of work, and I think they just enjoy the way that the mythical Pokemon stats look, like aesthetically, just having that flat 100 across the board.
Except Pecharunt. It has 80s and then like 160s.
Anyway, the historic ones, like that just seems to be like, yes, this is good. And I mean, the crazy thing, just as our last kind of aside before we get back to Go, is that even though if your number is correct at 720, like 600 total is not actually good enough to compete, like even if they were allowed.
Yeah. I know the pseudo legendaries is a base stat total of 600, because most legendaries have around 600, 610. But then you have stuff like Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres that have a base stat of 580. But they're classified as legendary Pokemon, which is weird. I think. I could be wrong.
Well, and I don't know how much this factors in, but with the special split, I feel like they probably took a hit from that.
Yeah.
That Gen 1 to Gen 2 mechanic.
I was wrong. The base stat total for most of them is 600. Anyway.
That's what you said.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, aside from the pseudo-legendaries, Alakazam. Hold up. Alakazam? Archeralodon? Have a base stat total of 600? Oh, that's Volcanion, not Volcarona. Alright, I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole. We gotta just shimmy back over.
Yeah. Well, we can do it. We can do the Battle Frontier rabbit hole real quick if you want before we jump into getting to scores and wrap up the
You're opening that can of worms.
the elephant, yeah, the elephant in the room, as far as I'm concerned, is, you know, there's 14 teams going into playoffs, and even if we're just looking at filling in the existing tiers and teams that we know for sure are leaving, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiers that even if nothing was happening, like the plan was just to add 2 to each to get to that even 10. However, we have Ace tier with 2 slots already open, so that would be all 14 teams that are going into playoffs accounted for. However, we know teams are leaving to their respective, like, actual regional conferences. Where do these other spots get filled?
I have a thought, and it's going to make a lot of teams upset because they had no control over this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Well, that's why I brought it up. Is I don't think it was talked about. It, like, where the extra teams would come from.
I would probably say that I think the Battle Frontier staff have a plan for it. It may not be a good plan, but it is a plan that they've probably been talking about. I am going to spitball an idea here and say, if your team was part of a pool that did not have a bye, then I think you should have a bit of a leg up on the other teams. Now that I've already pissed off at least, you know, pools 6 for sure, and the other teams that got dropped. Unfortunately, that's like probably the best worst decision, or like worst best decision. I can't word right now. And I'm totally not using it as a ploy to get the Dark Knight or get the sister team into the Ace tier, because I think they finished 4th, if I'm not mistaken. Spoiler alert. Which is still a pretty awesome deal, all things considered. However, you are correct, and it's like which teams are going to get picked over which teams are going to stay. And I think they might do something with, like, if your team had a bye for whatever reason, your points are going to be worth a little bit less than, say, I'll pick on the Dark Knight because that's our second team, or our sister team, excuse me. Aside from a pool down in pool 3 where they had no bye week whatsoever. Is that fair? Kind of, sort of, not really. But is it the best I can think of within 10?
The counterpoint, of course, is, you know, those teams could have scored more points.
You're not wrong.
So it's a trade-off, right? Is they had no opportunity to get more regular points because it was a bye round for them, right? You don't have any say. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know about favoring the bye or not, but I feel like I would sooner see only the obligated teams get promoted and relegated out of the tiers they're currently in, and filled in with new teams than to kind of backfill the way that Sylph had done a few times, where it was, hey, we know that you didn't qualify, but you also didn't get relegated, so we're just moving all teams up 6 slots or however many it is that we need, like apart from the asterisk teams of the ones that like officially got relegated, so they need to be like in whatever official slot that they need to be in.
I know exactly what you're referring to.
and it's just so I know it's benefited us in the past, but as far as
did it
like,
though?
as far as making or just like keeping to what they have promised the existing teams, like I would rather not mess with that is just what I'm trying to say. And if that means we end up with more new teams in Ace, and maybe there are some teams that get accelerated into tiers that they have no business in, that's going to work itself out really quickly. And I mean that's the thing that I like about factions and just Battle Frontier and team style play in general is if you're in a spot that you as a team don't deserve to be in, like it's gonna like the proof will be in the pudding.
Yeah, I can see that, and I can agree with you to an extent. I don't know where I'm going with this one though. So.
I will say in the short term, it'll probably be the least popular version of what do we do in this situation, and I'm just voicing it because I am almost certain they're just going to do the backfill version. Like that to me is the most likely, because you know we've been there. It's what most of us have been through, and so it's not going to rock the boat to do that. But
it could also be the easiest, like back end wise, when you're trying to like input everything onto a website. It could be like the simplest solution. Of course, I have like the programming experience of a potato, so
I was gonna say I can't comment on that. And as far as when you're going to be moving a ton of teams already, I don't know that having a few just like picked up laterally but like moved around other teams, like if that actually ends up easier.
What if I use AI to code a website?
Yeah, let's maybe not AI this.
Yeah, no, that would probably be a very bad idea. AI, for all of its good uses, is still its infancy stages, and there's a lot of things that need to work with it. Like you can't even ask AI to draw a simple hand because it'll give you like this many fingers.
And if anything, that's proof that drawing hands is difficult, right?
Take that, art teacher.
But yeah, that was just kind of on my mind as I was going through all the tiers today, and especially when I was looking at legendary tier, because you know just about half of the tier is going other places. So it was just I know it's not the case for most of the tiers. I know that the majority of them were and are NA teams to start with, but it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, especially since that is just one more thing that's kind of a few months down the road. I'm sure we'll hear about it sooner than that because it'll be in the planning of the logistics way before the playoffs are done, hopefully. But
yeah, especially with the playoffs, the only people that really won't have some time off is going to be the referees that are still going to be responsible for like disputes and stuff, which honestly is really, really nice because there will hopefully be less disputes coming in.
Well, there's so many less teams. Just by the numbers, you would, unless it's just entirely filled with problem children, you would think. It's like this wouldn't magnify, right?
On one hand, yes, because there's less teams. On the other hand, it's the playoffs. This determines tiering. Every point matters, but less teams. But every point matters. So it's going to be a fun next 4 weeks.
Is there a week between too? Because I knew I wasn't participating. I may have not paid super close attention to the actual timeline, but I know it's like 6 weeks or so to do the whole process.
At the time of this recording, there are no announcements for a wildcard week, which is going to happen next week.
Okay.
But if there is, then we're starting April 2nd.
Gotcha.
The announcement is... What's the word? The announcement is it's in our server out from the 19th. If it's found that any 1 week tiebreakers are needed for wildcard seeding, the bouts will take place beginning Tuesday, April 2nd, with the first official playoff. If no tiebreaker bouts are needed, then they're going to go directly into April 2nd. So this week is determining seeding and stuff. So we'll know more information probably by the time this episode goes live. In which case, if you already know this information, and if you type a comment saying, Taco, you're wrong and this is why, we are recording on March the 25th, y'all. I dropped my lucky quarter.
Yeah, we're always in the past.
Yeah, Niantic loves to drop news on Tuesdays, and we record Mondays. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm not salty about it at all.
At least we got the April news, and at least we can be excited about Mega Heracross.
Yes, brand new Mega, and we get a raid day for it on April the 13th.
And I'm mostly glad that it's not just a raid day, but it is also in the regular Mega rotation for that, like, almost 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah. So if you haven't gotten your Heracross regional, your Johto regional for whatever reason, here's your chance to get one of them. It's Heracross.
Don't forget, they're probably still full odds outside of the raid day.
Most likely. It's going to be awful. All right, and then, of course, Rocket Takeover events. TM your Pokemon. TM away frustration if you must, although you should probably purify, because purified Pokemon are a lot better. Don't listen to any of the propaganda, people using shadows. Those are bad people. And for those of you that say, you should use a Shadow Flagon, I will yeet this quarter that I've been playing in my hand for the last 5 minutes at you.
Yeah.
So, I think that covers all of the Battle Frontier and Niantic news.
Everything I wanted to talk about.
Same.
Well,
let's move on.
I mean, we can do the quick shout out, like you were talking about, TMing Shadow Pokemon. That includes the new Shadow Groudon. So,
which I still don't know if it's going to be good for. Well, I know in the Master League it's going to be a side grade to the regular Groudon. But in the Great League,
I hope that my Zarude floor hit means that maybe the Shadow Groudon will be a little better.
Don't worry, you can wait. Let's see. I'm gonna do some math in my head real quick. So, this month is Entei, or April's Entei, May is Suicune, then June they do the Hoenn legendaries of the Regis and Shadow Raids. But they also do at least one of the raid days, one of the weekends, where they'll do like Shadow Groudon, Shadow Kyogre. But no, it'll still be level 20, so even at 666 level 20, it's going to be over. Yeah, this is your one and only roll. Don't mess it up.
Yeah, no big deal. Well, and it's tricky. It's tricky also because I ran into this with the second Shadow Gigas that they gave us, where it just happened to be partly cloudy, and I didn't even think about it at the time. Where I was like, "Oh, that levels it out." And it's like, oh, great, thanks. Now I have this thing.
Wow, this is worthless.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh,
Alrighty.
palindrome.
All right. So we got the meta usage chart for last week. It hasn't updated for this week as this recording. So I'm going to pull it up for week 6. Bam.
Boom.
There it is in all of its glory. All right. So starting in our usual things for the week 6. Obviously, this was the second week of the new meta, so things kind of settled down a little bit. Stunfisk, Cresselia, Clodsire, and Skeledirge round out your top 4, and then Chargebug has kind of stayed the same.
Chillin', big chillin'.
Yeah.
After week 5 anyway, because it took a pretty big hit going from 4 to 5.
Yep.
Same with Crest though, so that's kind of the interesting recovery point.
Well, Crest has kind of rebounded a little bit.
Yeah, Crest is up 7%.
So that's something to celebrate if you're a Crest fan.
Well, I mean it's it's the knee-jerk reaction, and then now that we've done that, like what actually is still the best, and it looks like it's kind of just more of the same.
Yeah.
Settle back out a bit.
Right. We're probably going to do a lightning round through these unless something sticks out, because we have a lot to talk about, at least for teams and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and move right into
some of the tiers did make it easy on us, but others are
why. Just why? That's all I'm going to ask. So I'm going to move on into the Enchanted Cup, where we had Galarian Weezing, Tapu Fini, and Annihilate has taken over that number 3 spot. It used to be Skeledirge. So Tapu Fini has kind of been steadily falling over week to week. Tapu Fini was at 56 at week 5, 50 in week 6. Yeah, it's just been steadily falling in usage.
It was 64% before that, but I mean, steadily falling. It's still on half teams.
Yeah.
Every other team.
Well, Blastoise is getting more usage though, and as like a better water gun user, or excuse me, a bulkier water gun user.
Yeah, and you do see Cress and Shadow Drapion, the Aquatail, making itself known.
Yeah. So with that though, I think that's why we're going to see more Blastoise being used. I say Blastoise is better than Tapu Fini because fairy types are stupid. But that's just me. Don't pay no mind to me.
It's got, on balance, better mileage, I feel like, out of that type combination than, especially in this meta. But yeah, Blastoise clearly has a part to play if it's on 30% of teams.
I wonder, does Blastoise get... What's the word? Does Blastoise get Flash Cannon and Go? It does not.
Temp definitely does.
Wait. Yes, it does. And Skull. Okay, well, it has Skull Bash, so I don't see a reason
if you're gonna run a move that isn't Ice Beam, it's gonna be Skull Bash.
I tried to cook. Didn't work.
Well, and the part that is always going to be difficult to get around is the Flash Cannon nerf that they still haven't reversed for any reason.
They don't see a reason, so they're not gonna.
Well, anyway, it's one of my least favorite nerfs because it was meant to nerf one Pokemon in particular and just made the move almost unusable. Yeah. Or like there's a few niche cases where it adds, but it's still like considered pretty spicy because it's just not what it once was.
That's fair. All right. Open Master League time. We have Gyarados is still number one, but it's still fallen from 66% to 63%. So can you really count that as a fall?
Yeah, it's no longer on a full 2/3 of teams.
That's
Just-
slightly.
Just 6 out of 10.
Of course, then we got Metagross, Therian Landorus, Florges, Primarina, Palkia Origin, Virizion, Mewtwo, and the new king of the Megas, Mega Aggro. Which it's only there because it resists Fairy Wind and Dragon Breath. But if you see a Therian...
Even that's on the way down.
Yeah. And if you see a Therian Landorus pop into the field and you throw Mega Aggron out there, run away screaming. Because, no. Absolutely not. That's all I got for Master League.
I want to know who's cooking with the Mega Houndoom and Kartana.
You really scrolled all the way at the bottom, didn't you?
I sure did, because like, why are there this many different Pokemon for like, it has the second highest just variety, only behind Open Great League, which to me is like kind of crazy. Why are there so many picks?
Let them cook.
Yeah, well, and that is happening apparently.
If you are currently using Houndoom or Mega Houndoom or Kartana in the Open Master League, please reach out to us. We want to know what you're doing.
We just want to see. I want to see what's happening.
And if you need help, blink twice if you're using them against your will.
Yeah, who's forcing you?
All right, so Serene Cup time. For a second, I thought that Jellicent said Jirachi and was going to start freaking out for a moment.
It is allowed. It should be on the list somewhere.
I don't want to look for it. There's a Delcatty on this list. What the actual heck?
Delcatty isn't the worst just because it's one of very few charm users that's available in the meta, and because like you look at there's a few prominent dark types like Malamar and Alolan Raticate and maybe the occasional fighter. Greninja used to be much higher, but of course now is down at 5%. Where it could work, and there are also a lot of either normal types or others just taking advantage of Shadow Claw specifically and just Ghost fast moves, where because Delcatty is a normal type, it can have a little bit longer to chunk away with the charm.
That's a certified yikes moment, but you know, people are trying to think outside the box, especially trying to break the Azu, Jellicent, Deoxys, Raichu teams.
Yeah,
I haven't fought in Serene since week 4. Jet, when did you come back off the bench?
Yeah, I played week 1 and then week 5.
Okay, so yeah, week 4 was my last time playing, and I was unceremoniously swept 3-0.
I think the only Pokemon that has made any new-ish waves is Furfrou.
That sound attack, man. I can tell you.
Well, it's good in the matchups where it has a type advantage with its coverage, and apart from that, like the neutral matchups are not good. And that's kind of why I talked it down as much as I did initially, is like, especially if you have it in against one of the other normal types, like it just loses. Like specifically referring to like the soak that is Munchlax or Oinkologne or Rat for that matter, where it's just like as soon as you need the fast attack to actually be doing damage. Like obviously it's not. It's an energy move, so
That's fair.
it kind of goes downhill quickly, but it does a good job chunking the less bulky stuff that it has a move advantage against, which I mean you would expect a Pokemon to do, but it's pretty spammy. I'll give it that.
Yeah, we got to get some good. We got to take the bad with the good.
I still don't believe in it.
For you Furfuro fans out there, if you can make Jet believe in it, more power to you. I've had a hard time trying to get him to believe in Flygon, but
well, and like I know I've had 2 bad matchups against Furfuru like the last 2 weeks of the cycle, but even then, I still don't believe in it.
But that third time is what's gonna get you.
It'll make a believer out of me.
The copium is real on this night. Finally, we go to the Primordial Cup, where Cradily was supposed to be on its way out. It dropped to 76% and jumped up to 77%. It doesn't seem like much, but
it's a jump.
It is an increase. This condensed meta is.
And it looks like our story is pretty similar here, where our ups are Drapion and Goodra because of Aquatail specifically, and then Milotic kind of deals with both of them decently. So
I do want to take this time, even though this used to be called the Dragonair field. Dragonair is not the best dragon type in the domain anymore. That makes me a little sad. Sad Dragonair noises. But it still beats Frostlass in the one shields. I'll never let that go. All right, I'm done. My rant is over. Any final thoughts on Primordial Cup, or is anything jumping out to you?
Yeah, I was double checking, like most of the big adjustments were from right when the new season started, and this is just kind of holding a lot of the trends.
Gotcha. Okie dokie, that's gonna do it all. So now we get to my favorite part, which is the scores. So we're gonna do something a little different today. We're gonna start at the top, the highest tier and legendary tier, and work all the way down to pools. If you're listening and you're in the pool section, you get your time to shine at the very end, because you're the star of the show for today with playoffs. We'll go over the relegations and promotions for the higher tiers at a later time, because honestly, we don't know what's going to happen. I'm glad I'm not a staff member of the Battlefront tier. I'll tell you that much, because the amount of stuff that needs to be done across the 4 tiers. Okay, so legendary tier. Here it is. We have Deoxys Albertiform defeating the Chicago Stars 11-10. Rock Paper Slark beats LU Vanguard 15-6. Sky Dragons Gaming defeats Acopolis Team 17-4. And EU Emperors defeats Sharks and Wreck 13-8. Final standings shows Deoxys Albertiform wins the, I guess, first legendary tier crown. Sky Dragons Gaming once again took second place in the playoffs and takes second place in the tier.
And as I was going through earlier, I noticed, and I don't know if we commented on last time, that Rock Paper Slark was the team to hand them their second loss. Back-to-back losses at the hands of Sharks and Wreck and Rock Paper Slark to put them in second place.
That'll happen. That does happen.
Well, they were cruising in first until that moment.
Sometimes teams just have your number. Unfortunately, Apocalypse team going 0-7 will be relegated, but I believe this is one of the teams that is transferring into the LATAM region or transferring out of NA. Other question marks.
Yeah, we'll see how that works exactly. I guess this is actually the one thing from this last week that I kind of wanted to comment on is Apocalypse team, because 17-4 just looked unnatural to me, and it could have been a case of just a team calling it early. It just is unfortunate though, like that happened at the very top. Like I just don't know if I buy it. Like it's from the tier that until that point, you know, the other 6 weeks of competition, the highest score anyone had gotten was 14.
I see. Okay.
It's a bit of a tip to the too far range.
Yeah, it's kind of, like you said, it's kind of a toss up to see what can. But question marks I have is, you know, Apocalypse team I think is leaving, EU Emperors and Sky Dragons. That's 3 teams I think that is taking the trek to their respective regions when they were in Sylph. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. Once again, Good luck, staff.
Well, and then our kind of surprise turnaround is we have the Legends United team sitting in one of the relegation spots, where up until their head-to-head with the sister team, the EU team, they were one of the top teams as well. So
this is true.
It doesn't take much to get just pushed right to the edge, and of course they're only out by 3 points.
Yeah, and
by which I mean 3 game wins. Like, is same score match wise, and so it's like that razor thin.
Yeah, and like, you know, once you get to the quote unquote higher levels of play, I would probably say that every win matters a little bit more, because those wins or those points are not easy to come by up there. And it kind of shows with the spread. If you take Apocalypse team out, because they're the outlier in this case, the range is 66 all the way up to 83. And it's, my goodness. It looks like, doing some quick math, about 74 or 75 points is the average amongst these teams. So if you did higher than 75 points, you were considered, quote, one of the higher scoring teams.
Yeah. Well, and just like as a final note before we maybe leave Legendary tier until later on when we have things to say about who's all going to end up there for next round, that we had, you know, an actual playing for all the marbles match, and it went to 11-10 like in the last week of the cycle. And you know, but like it's a little bit weird when you have 2 teams in that position and they're not playing for first and second, they're playing for first and third.
Yeah, actually that's really interesting when you look at it that way. Yeah, because Sky Dragons had locked up the 2nd seed at best. But even just the fact that they scored the most points and they were only able to take 2nd place. I mean, EU Emperors outscored both the Alberta Reform and Chicago Stars, and they unfortunately are taking 4th because they dropped a game.
Yeah, well, and that's like, end of the day, matches mattering more than games is, I think, how it should be, right? Like, it tells a story of, okay, clearly there was a little bit of variance that occurred on the wins, right? Where they got to have a little bit more weight behind them, but having it come down to matches, I think, is doing it right.
Yeah, it's fair. All right, so congrats once again to Deoxys Alberta form, and with that, let us move into the champions tier. There we are. There is one massive score that sticks out, and I don't know what's going on anymore, because this was Utter Madness winning 6 of their 7 games, and everyone else was just fighting for second place.
Oh, that's what you meant. I agree. There was a score that stands out to me. I did not expect you to say Utter Madness.
Well, no.
But
Besides,
on the overall, yes, I agree.
I started to talk about the scores, but then I also saw the standings and went, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
I had to say this first. Okay, back to the scores. Evan Stonks defeats Hoosier Daddies 13-8. Utter Madness defeats Backstage Battlers 14-7. Barktown Boomers defeats Home Slice Homies 15-6, and Brave Nerds defeats Muddy Water 17-4. Don't upset Brave Nerds, because if they can do this to a very, very competitive team in Muddy Water, I would hate to be on the receiving end. They were definitely out for a statement win there.
Well, there's this, and then as soon as you look at last week also, where NEB beat them 15-6, and the week prior they lost to Backstage 12-9. Is like, what happened after their 16-5 over Home Slice Homies? Like, they just kind of went on a slide.
They said never again.
Well, and I wonder if it wasn't after the loss to Backstage Battlers, right? Because like the 15-6 on its own is like, okay, that's weird, especially for Muddy Water, and then 17-4 the next week, like they're not all there anymore.
Yeah. So for promotions and relegations wise, we'll go ahead and treat it as, you know, all the teams are still staying, like say the teams that we talked about up in the Legends tier, they stay there for right now, just so that we can talk about this. Utter Madness and Evan Stonks will get promoted to the new Legendary tier. Unfortunately, Home Slice Homies and Hoosier Daddies are going to be relegated into the Elite tier. Backstage and Barktown, you all are safe by the literal... Well, Backstage more than anything, because only 2 wins separated Backstage and Home Slice. Barktown Boomers were kind of safe, but they're still... You're on thin ice.
They're only safe because they beat the Home Slice Homies. Like that was a do or die moment for them.
Oh, that's right. Actually, their win helped them or propelled them to the 3-4 record, and then winning by the amount that they did also solidified them from being, relegated or sending Backstage packing. That was a very, very convoluted way of just saying Barktown Boomers won and they stay in, but they won enough. They won and they scored enough points to jump Backstage as well.
Well, I mean, at that point, it doesn't really matter. Like they just needed to win. Like that put them ahead enough of Home Slice Homies. But yeah, it's just they didn't have 6 points to give back either way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Backstage could have also done better and put them in, flip that around, but they were relatively they were only saved by 2 points. What am I saying?
Yeah.
So it was really the combination of those losses, because it could have been either team there.
Yeah. So with that's champion. Like, when the dust settles, this is what it looks like. You know, aside from, Utter Madness ran away with it. Everyone else, look how close those scores were. You had four wins, 3 losses, 3 wins, 4 losses. And then Who's Your Daddies unfortunately got beaten up by almost everybody. But they beat Brave Nerds, I think.
Yep.
Okay. All right, that was the week when we go, y'all, what is happening in Champions Tier? Teams are winning when they're not supposed to win, and teams are losing when they're not supposed to.
Well, and if you thought Champion was a close tier.
Oh, you're making me want to look at Elite Tier.
It's about to get closer.
Oh goodness. Oh my word. All right, so I won't talk about the standings yet. I'm gonna talk about the scores.
Yep.
All right, so Decidueye Dynasty Black defeats Icy Wind 12-9. Texas PvP defeats Mighty Thunder Ducks 12-9. Canadian Shieldon defeats the Thunderdome 11-10. And Northeast Battlers defeats Lucky Mucks 11-10. The standings, y'all. Northeast Battlers and Decidueye Dynasty share the crown, or the Elite Tier crown, with 5 wins, 2 losses, 81 wins. And then Canadian Shieldon, who is also 5-2, comes in 3rd with 79 wins. Unfortunately, because only 2 teams can get promoted, Northeast Battlers and Decidueye Dynasty Black will be promoted at this time.
And the standings have it right, because Northeast Battlers has the head-to-head over Decidueye Dynasty Black.
Correct. Now, please, Canadian Shieldon, don't be too upset if, by the time Sabu goes live and they say, oh yeah, you're getting promoted actually. We are treating this as everyone is staying in their respective tiers or respective regions for Cycle 3. Obviously, things can change. So for right now, you're not getting promoted. I'm sorry.
By 2 points. And then the thing that sticks out to me is that 1st through 6th are separated by a total of 8. less than about win worth of game points.
Yeah, that is on the very, very rough side. Unfortunately, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then in what world did we expect to see Lucky Mucks in one of the relegation slots?
That wasn't on my bingo card. I'll be very honest with you. Not on my bingo card whatsoever. But yes, unfortunately, Lucky Mucks and Thunderdome, thank you for playing in the Elite Tier. You're coming down in the Premier Tier with us. Hi. Oh. Oh no. We're fighting Thunderdome. And Lucky Mucks. Send help. Taco is sad.
You skipped a tier, buddy.
Wait. Oh no, expert. Dang. Okay, never mind.
I had to go check. I was like, I'm pretty sure there's one more in between.
No, they're getting rid of expert tier. Everyone in expert tier is getting kicked down to.
Oh, open. That's where they're getting all the teams from. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, my heart was gonna stop for a moment because, Lord behold, if Diener Don't Care ever fights against Lucky Mucks, I'm 99% sure that Ali is going to want to fight me in the Ultra League spot.
Yeah, isn't this an old bet? Isn't there like a standing?
Honestly, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it's just we have to fight in the Ultra League. Because I was talking mad smack about it.
Neutral ground.
No, it's her stomping ground. No, absolutely not.
Oh, so it's just ass whooping ground.
Yep.
Great.
I'll take my licks with honor, but I'm not going to make it easy. So yeah,
yeah, the standout here is one like we talked about it a few weeks ago, but that 15-6 that Canadian Shieldon took, like coming back to bite them hard. Like they did answer back, like reversing the score on the next team they played, but the hole was just big enough, right? Like
Yeah.
They're out of a promotion slot by 2 points.
Yeah, that is probably what's going to hurt the most. And if I'm Canadian Shieldon's opponent next cycle, I know those players will be fighting with a chip on their shoulder, so watch out.
Yeah, I mean they were in position to, take the entire tier, and
it just is just out of their grasp.
They dropped the baton. But that's also what happens when you have 3 teams at 5 and 2. Is
as a track runner,
we talked about before with the whole points. Every point matters. Like, it mattered the most in this tier.
Yeah, as a track runner, dropping the baton was one of the absolute worst things that I dropped it one time.
It is haunting.
It is awful. Sometimes I'll still have nightmares over it when I used to run relays in high school. I dropped it one time my freshman year, and that ended up costing us our district title. And I never dropped a single baton after that. And that was sad. Okay. Enough about track and field.
Well,
expert tier.
Oh, I was gonna add the death knell for Lucky Mucks was their loss to Icy Wind last week, and then that 11-10 this week. Just kind of like, again, perfect storm right at the end.
Yeah, it is rough, especially when you go on a little bit of a skid or you fight your toughest opponents and you go, oh no.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that is, for better or worse, about round robin is you can kind of know what you're in for to some extent, right? Is you kind of, especially as you get more familiar with the teams, you know where you kind of have to build yourself a little bit of a buffer, right? And sometimes, obviously sometimes you'll get surprised, and I 1000% include Mighty Thunderduck's win in there in-house last week, 18-3. Those points all matter right now. Like, they're only up out of relegation by 6 points, and so if they had just done the regular win, the 11-10 or even 12-9, like, they're still getting relegated. The 18
mattered. Oh my lord!
Like, you talk about suspicious scores. Like, now it really feels kind of itchy in my brain.
I don't have a tinfoil hat.
I mean, we already talked about it. We can move on.
Okay.
But the consequences are way more real now, right?
I was gonna be like, I'll use the flagon of conspiracy that I just pulled out. No, I'm not gonna accuse him of match fixing. That's terrible, but it just looks. I mean, it's almost as sus as Rock Paper Soccer if Brave Nerds being in the same pool back in Cycle 1.
Yeah,
we'll put that on that level of sus.
Mad sus.
All right, so now we can move into expert tier that Taco totally forgot about.
Well, and of course we can do last shout out for Decidueye Dynasty Black. 4-win streak to end out the cycle is pretty cool.
That's amazing on their part. Okay, so in the expert tier, Phoenix Rising defeats Thunder Fury. Roslark Bow defeats TNT Fingals. I think it's because we talked about him. That's why they didn't play so well. Slark Paper Scissors defeats Team Omega LOL 15-6, and finally Hammerheads defeats iCarly PvP. Roslark Bow and Hammerheads take the promotion spot. However, Roslark Bow is our first team to take a clean 7-0 sweep, defeating every single player or every single team in the expert tier. I had to reread that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Team Omega LOL and iCarly PvP, you are getting relegated to the Premier tier. Big sad. So we'll see you down here in Premier tier.
Yeah, but also, hello.
Hi, how's it going? We're gonna fight y'all.
And
So
you started the conversation on TNT Flingles, and when we talked about them last, like they had kind of the dark horse path to taking the tier, and because we talked, like it almost feels like because we talked about them, they ended up in the middle of the pack instead. But I mean, the bottom line was they were playing the top two teams in the tier, and it was always going to be tough.
I am willing to bet that the MJ curse, when MJ talks about them and they don't do so, it has, because MJ has appeared on the show so often. We have taken that curse from him, and now we will talk about TNT Fingles.
We've been touched by the curse.
Jet, make sure you make a note of that for me. That the week before we fight TNT Fingles, we hype them up as much as possible.
I mean, we still have to catch up with them though. They're chilling in expert.
That's fair. Or we can hype them up so much next cycle that they drop to our tier.
Well, you know, hopefully by then we move up, so that we just be dodging each other at that point.
Fair. Okay. That's true. They did finish fourth. They finished 4-3. So with that, this is going to be weird. So Thunderdome is getting relegated into this tier, and Thunder Fury and Thunderdome are in the same house. So you're going to have another civil war. Thunderdome, I hope you're happy. You're going to fight
the house
every
divided.
single... Yeah, you're going to fight every single one of your teams at this point. Because if I'm not mistaken, if they get relegated this next time, or if they get relegated again into Premier Tier, I'm not saying it's going to happen, and Thunder Squirrels gets promoted to Premier Tier,
They are. I mean, spoiler alert, but they are.
No, they're not.
Are they not? Did
No.
I get that wrong?
You did. Well, we'll talk about that in the Ace Tier, because there is clearly a hierarchy that has happened in the head-to-head in Ace Tier. But we'll get to that. Hold on.
I did know that they kind of made a big comeback, though, so...
Okay. I had to look at it for a second. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. We got to finish talking about Expert Tier. So this might be Phoenix Rising's tier to lose next cycle. If, you know, they... Like, of course, if there's no other extra promotions, relegations. So even though, like, Rosark Bow and Hammerheads kind of... Or Rosark Bow almost pretty much ran away with the tier. Hammerheads and Phoenix Rising were... I think they were... Like, Hammerhead's only loss was to Rosark, no Dur. And then Phoenix Rising had lost to both Hammerheads and Rosark. So that's kind of like the hierarchy at the top.
Yeah, this one at least makes sense, right? They line themselves up in the proper order.
Yeah. My head's going back and forth because I really want to see this now. Yep, there it is. Okay, so I have no final thoughts about the expert tier. Do you have any final thoughts before we moved on down into our home tier?
I am a little surprised just by how much of a disparity there ended up being in this. Like, you had, and I think maybe this is just the case when there's a team that sweeps and then another team right on their heels, is you kind of had the 7-6-5-4, but then you jump to just 2-1 wins for the other four teams. And I'm curious how Thunder Fury will do in the next round also. Like, you were talking about Phoenix Rising, and I think it works best if we don't talk about Flingles for them anyway. But yeah. And Slack Paper Scissors, I believe, is probably going to be leaving, right?
They are an EMEA team, yes. But to my knowledge, and I probably might have to talk to the Rock River Slark crew. I'm not sure if they have committed to leaving yet. But they generally are an EMEA team, and we did defeat them in Cycle 1 in the playoffs. So if they continue to do bigger and better things in EMEA, we can say we lord over all of EMEA because we beat them.
Do we know any other, like, are there any others from this section that are likely to leave, or was it just like I knew that one for sure?
The rest of these are NA teams.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was just checking.
Unless because Thunder Fury is the newest of the Thunderdome stable. If Big Dude decides to send them overseas and the rest of the team decides to do it, I don't know if they do. Yeah, I was like, I don't know if most of the players are EMEA. When we fought them, they really weren't. So
this is like some boarding school level stuff happening now.
You know, if we ever create another team that's made up of EMEA players, I'll have them fight over there under the Dean Air banner. I gotta replace that flag back there, you know? Make a Dean Air flag. Alright. Alright, so with that, let's go into Premier Tier. So, Fearsome Frostlass defeats Gong Rippers 11-10. Switchmasters defeats Pioneer Valley PvP. Sea Kingpin defeats Diener Don't Care 14-7. And Nerdy Birds defeats the Great Unknown 14-7 as well. Standings wise, Nerdy Birds, who had already solidified promotion last week, ends the sweep in the Premier Tier, going a perfect 7-0. Switchmasters will follow them to promotion, winning against Pioneer Valley PvP. That matchup between Pioneer Valley and Switchmasters was more important than we thought, because due to Pioneer Valley's loss, they are getting relegated instead of us.
Yeah,
I was scared.
Unfortunately, well, it's like it's not like we weren't in a position to save ourselves, but obviously with us losing, then it came down to another matchup.
Well, see, had we won, we would have finished in Sea Kingpin's slot, and then Pioneer Valley would have had a harder road out of relegation because of the... Actually, no. Pioneer Valley would have had an easier time because with that 10, like say the score was flipped. I'm flipping the score for a second. Sea Kingpin would have had 68 wins, and with Pioneer Valley 70, Sea Kingpin would have been getting relegated to Ace tier. But in this case, we have, because Sea Kingpin won and took the 5th slot and Dean Air dropped to 6th, because Pioneer Valley lost, even though they scored a lot of points, more than Dean Air, they're getting relegated due to the 2-5 record.
We gotta work on points next rotation.
Yeah,
it's like we can't just let the match wins be the thing that's saving it. We got to get out of this 11-10 business.
What if we're the new Hammerheads? Like,
I mean, it's not bad, right? They're still moving up.
Yeah, but we're on the losing side of that 11-10 shenanigans. Unfortunately, you know, last week with Nerdy Birds outplaying us at almost every corner, definitely hurt. But in this scenario, ending off on a skid is never a good sign.
I will say I feel way more comfortable losing 14-7 than 16-5.
Yeah.
It's like it feels so much more respectable for some reason, where it's like, oh, you could have at least, you know, gotten 1 point in every matchup.
Yeah. But okay. Unfortunately, though, Gong Rippers completes the first 0-7 time, and they will unfortunately be relegated down into the Ace tier.
Well, you talk about another team that was just on the wrong side of 11-10 too many times. Like they're right up there also.
Yeah. Our last win was an 11-10 against them. So it is a little on the sad side. We're sad to see you go, but I know you're going to do great things down in Ace tier. Jen, you're doing amazing things as a captain. I believe in you.
Well, and that's the nice thing is no one is getting relegated out of Ace, and so it's not like there's the old fear from kind of the bottom few tiers of Sylph where it's like, oh no, open tier is like opening its jaws towards me. I feel the abyss.
Yeah,
because that is my other curiosity is just how they're going to treat open tier after like this accelerated get people into tiers situation is over. Like do you do the melee, like, or do you keep the round robin format for open tiers? Because like I feel like that's actually a big advantage to being more ready to play round robin in the tiers is, you know, getting to actually experience it. Obviously there were some hiccups with how many buys and bonus buys appeared as the cycle went on.
We can do, or let's see, what if we did, you know, I don't know if the staff is going to do this as well. What if we did the, you know, the pool system next cycle, they do the round robin, and then the winners play in a playoff, and then whoever wins the play, or like the top players in the playoff get the promotion. Probably a terrible idea.
Well, it's a lot of extra work is where my question is coming from, right? Like it makes sense for this round where where the doors got open wide and said, okay, now we're ready to actually accommodate all of the teams. Like it's not just the 40 teams anymore. So it made sense to make an accelerated let's get the, you know, world's qualified teams for the most part. And this is where open is going to get silly next time anyway. Is actual spoiler alert, like there are world's qualified teams that will be in open next cycle.
Yeah. Good luck to those. Good luck to your open player teams, though.
Yeah. And that's already with several of the pools being just kind of bloodbaths, or just in general group sacrifices to the two teams that were obviously moving up.
Right.
But I guess we should talk about Ace before we get too excited.
We do have to. We can't forget about them. Those six teams, they have fought hard. Some of them fought twice, and this is what it looks like now.
Well, and yeah, you talk about the last 2 weeks of rematches, and they did not go to script.
Yeah, no, they just decided to do their own thing. Unfortunately, I do have to point out an error in this standings, but I'll get to the scores first. Fletch and Rail Stories defeats East Caliber 11-10. Decidueye Dynasty defeats Coastal Kings, finally getting in the win column and avoiding the dreaded 0-7, 12-9. And Delibirds the Word defeats the Thunder Squirrels 14-7. So, I was looking at when Coastal Kings fought Thunder Squirrels. And Thunder Squirrels defeated Coastal Kings in the head-to-head. So technically, Thunder Squirrels comes in third place.
Well, and if it makes you feel better, on the live version, it's listed that way.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
That's those sons of a gun.
So they caught it. They justified it, which is, yeah. Part of what's made this fun is just, man, the rematches.
Wait, you said Thunder Squirrels is supposed to be isn't third on your screen?
Yeah.
It's still showing as fourth on my screen. Maybe I have to log out and log back in.
I mean, I can refresh, I guess, but
No, it's fine. I'll trust you. I'll trust you. But okay, so Thunder Squirrels takes
third.
So Thunder Squirrels takes third. Coastal Kings takes fourth. Fletch and Arella Story and Delibirds the Word, I think, are getting promoted.
Yeah, well, they're in the top two, and that is the same as everywhere else, except there is no relegation out of Ace this time. It's only the promotion.
Okay. So the Naked Hornet, East Caliber, you're safe for a week, and Decidueye Dynasty Green, Rowdy Rowlets, you're also safe.
Yeah.
Oh no, I dead named a team. I'm getting canceled.
Well, I think taking the revenge match against Coastal Kings like gives you justification to like get on board with the evolution, right?
Yeah. They have evolved to Dartrixes. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Dartrix Dynasty.
King Alexander, that one's free. Oh goodness. All right.
And then we had an actual match with Fletch and Durrell and East Caliber coming down to 1 as well.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that that the Naked Hornet and East Caliber unfortunately were unable to win. But seeing as that everybody, with the exception of Decidueye Dynasty, everyone was essentially beating up on Decidueye Dynasty, and everyone pulled at least 3 wins out. Very, very balanced plays here.
Well, and even if they do get the go-ahead win, it doesn't change anything standings-wise.
Correct.
So, I mean, it's cool to see like they got to have like a knockdown drag out in the end, even though it didn't matter that much like for the grand scheme. But I don't know. I like those.
I would say
where everyone shows up to play.
Yeah, I would probably say had East Caliber blown Fletch and Arella Story out of the water for whatever reason, and gotten at 75 wins.
I'm so glad though that I opened their match, because as soon as you mentioned the Naked Hornet, I was like, there was some kind of agreement reached, as I recalled, and the Master League matchup does not disappoint.
Well, now I gotta see this.
Yeah, you should look.
I'm gonna take a look.
Just going through to check if there's any other like standout
things. The Latios, Volcarona, Mega Aerodactyl, Sylveon, Tapu Fini, Sneasler versus Darkrai, Hippowdon, Tapu Koko, Buzzwole, Satitan, and Mega Venusaur.
Pretty great, right?
Yeah, it is great. I mean, Naked Hornet, we're gonna have some chat in the Discord. Like, I understand the agreement and all of it. What the actual heck?
This is what the 0 Point Master League looks like.
Unfortunately, that sweep was what led to their downfall.
Well, it was a sweep for a sweep. It wasn't the only one.
Oh yeah, I did see that. I was like, that's why I needed to correct myself.
Yeah. Well, and like we were saying, it really doesn't change anything overall, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it does not. All right.
Like, even 3 more points doesn't put them tied with the Coastal Kings and Thunder Squirrels.
Correct. They need to win at least 14-7. And then, and this is where it's going to get fun. And then Fletch and Arella Story would have had the exact same amount of wins as Delibirds the Word, and we would have had to go into...
Well, it wouldn't matter. They're still both moving up.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about head-to-head, which Fletch and Arella Story won the head-to-head, so standings still would have stayed.
Yeah,
They didn't get it. They didn't get a
whole
rematch.
second and third thing.
All right, it's time to do the pools. Let's give y'all some love.
Which end of the pools are we starting on?
Pool number 1.
The shallow end.
Yeah, we're gonna do pool number 1 because that's what the slideshow started on.
Well, and that's more what I'm asking is which order did Taco put them in?
Taco likes number go up, so it goes 1, 2, 3, and so on.
Yeah.
Okay, so starting in pool number 1, this is wrong, but it is also kind of funny. Yeah.
What?
Okay. I'm saying is this another one where Wicked Weaviles sits at number 2, but I have them at number 3? Mainly for your screen.
I know that. Yeah, why is yours just wrong?
I don't know.
That's like the numbers don't even make sense.
Yeah, so anyway, Caesar Productions gets their bye. Inferno Overdrive completes the sweep, secures the number 1. I mean, they locked up the number 1 seed with their win. 11-10 against Ann Arbor Arbok. Beginner and winner Trez defeats Premier Raids 15-6. And the upset, Wicked Weaviles defeats A9 Elites 13-8. In addition, because Wicked Weaviles has the head-to-head and they scored more points against A9 Elites, they have jumped into ignore the picture before I start looking at it weird.
That's actually hilarious that even exists at all, like that you could screen grab that. Like the numbers shouldn't let it do that.
I know. I was able to so I screen grabbed this 30 minutes before we started recording.
Well, they must have been doing something because like I looked ahead way before that and it was right. So I don't know how you're finding these things, but like that's interesting that's even possible.
I'm blaming the website. Please don't ban me.
I'm gonna err on the side of user error for these.
Look, I may not be a smart man, but I know how to do clicky clacky on the keyboard.
and this sets up our first of the there's going to be more beatdowns in open tier for next cycle situations because we have not only is Ann Arbor not in 3rd, they're in 4th after this last week.
A9 Elites kind of came out of nowhere. I think this is a brand new team. I don't know anything about them.
Well, I mean, they were doing well all cycle, and then we talked about dropping the baton, like Wicked Weaviles sneaking in. They were one of our like few like tinfoil hat like, okay, this could potentially like happen, but this is I'm pretty sure the only one that actually did, where they saw the opportunity and they jumped on it.
Yeah, they definitely 100% went full send on it. And I am here for it. My goodness.
And I mean, obviously we'll have A9 Elites to look forward to in open tier next round as long as they stick with it and can hopefully expect a revenge tour out of them. But yeah, biggest surprise by a mile though is that Ann Arbor Arbok is just chilling in the middle of the pack.
Yeah. It's a little on the unfortunate side. Okay. So that was crazy. I gotta move on into pool number 2.
Yep.
Here we go.
Well, you can calm back down for like the next 3 pools because it's just like, oh hey, second place only lost to first place is kind of how those go.
Yeah. So scores wise, Dancing Dittos defeats Scissor Me Timbers 13-8. Northeast Battlers, the Bad Batch, defeats Queen Bees 12-9. SoCal Swablu Gold demolishes the Collective 19-2. And Cool Cats defeats Cleveland Escavaliers 13-8.
Nope.
Sorry, 18-3. Dyslexia strikes again.
Yeah. Well, it's like you want the kinder score, and that's not the one that they got.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate, but so in this case, Cool Cats and SoCal Swallow Gold are moving on. Northeast Battlers, the Bad Batch, is staying in the back. Get back over here. There.
Yeah. Oh.
I fixed it. The
Okay.
Northeast Battlers is staying in open. Dancing Dittos for their very first cycle, finishing 5th, is a pretty good sign.
Well, and they've got, well, I don't know if it's who this is tattling on the most, but when you have Bad Batch sitting at 77, Dancing Dittos a whole match win behind at 77, and then Scissor Me Timbers an additional match win behind at 76. Those three, I think, might have a little rivalry going now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, I do have to also kind of point out, though I'm sad to report on this, the Queen Bees with a 2-5 finish is a little sad to see, but it was their first cycle back in a while, so you got this, ladies. I believe in y'all next cycle.
Well, and I know they
things.
had some newer members as well, so I'm glad they're hanging out, doing the battling, and again, like, one more team to watch for open next cycle.
Queen Bees are definitely, I would peg them as a dark horse team, or a sleeper team, because I still remember I think it was when they were in open, they started out 0-2 and then went on a 5-game win streak. Unfortunately, it took Battle Bill's team to defeat them.
Well, and I mean, you look at the rest of, well, you look at how they did against the top 2 teams, and they took them both to 12-9, where, I mean, yeah, they're on the losing side, but that was the closest either of them got to losing, like, outside of their match with each other, which was actually further apart than that. It was 13-8 for Cool Cats.
Yeah, and that's just goes to show you that the Queen Bees, they will bring it, and they will fight for every single point. So now, computer, you can move on into pool. Alrighty. So pool number 2, we got Cool Cats, SoCal Swallow Gold, which I'm not gonna say is surprising, but I would have pegged Northeast Battlers to take over the gold spot. So
well, and I guess it's worth mentioning that the 20-point differential looks less significant when you see that, you know, this week was 19 points for SoCal Swabble Gold.
Take those 19 points away, you have 74 points. Sorry, 79 points. I can't math.
You should stop.
Yeah.
We should move on.
76.
Yeah.
Third time's the charm. All right, so pool number 3, we have Shadow Riders defeating Palatown Red 16-5. SoCal Swallow Coastal defeats the Dark Knight 12-9. Ghost Pepper Dunspice defeats Sweaty PvPVs 11-10. I am struggling so hard to pronounce that name.
Yeah.
And then finally, Pogoats defeats Team Flareon 17-4. Pogoats completes the 7-0 sweep and locks up the number 1 seed, whereas SoCal Swallow Coastal locks up the number 2 seed with their 12-9 victory over the Dark Knight. Even though, you know, Dark Knight had to win 19-2 to jump them, it's unfortunate that they lost. But, you know, it happens. Unfortunately, Sweaty PvPEVs were unable to get the ball rolling, and they got the 0-7 sweep on them.
All right, I have another shout out though from their match, because
Which one?
Our buddy G Free is on Ghost Pepper Dunspice.
Oh,
and he played in Primordial 2, and he has a fabulous team.
Now you're gonna make me look at it.
Yeah.
All right. Doesn't G-Free normally play in the Master League?
For this cycle, I believe he's been playing Primordial.
Okay. Where
At least when I've checked in on how they're doing.
G-Free, what is this team? Citadel, Amara, Gabite, Dedenne, Suing, Quillfish, and Relican. Versus Overquill, Snorlax, Barbaracle, Galissapod, Flygon, and Milotic. I'm not even mad.
That was a battle for the ages right there.
I'm not even mad. I am very much... That Eevee has a knife.
Well, and it's... To me, that's just such a good way to treat Week 7.
I mean,
when you can't be in the top 2 teams.
Right. And so for this one, I got to give a special shout out to the sister team, the Dark Knight. Those players came together, started out 0-2, and went on a 4-game winning streak, and their only losses are the teams that finished ahead of them. I am so proud of every single player on that team.
Yeah, they did great. They, again, like we've been talking about teams to watch for the next open round, and they're going to be right up in there.
They're definitely going to be a team to watch. And not to put a target on any of their backs, but I would wager that they could go up against the best of them now that they've got a cycle under their belt, and the newer players, this was like their first time in like a team-based format, and they were able to just hit the ground running and just start getting win after win after win.
Yeah, well, and it was a good reminder for me just that there is a learning curve to the format. Even as early as doing the in-house scrim, like as a full team, how we had new players on both teams, and so we had to tell one of the lines to go back and play a 4th game because they had a tie. It's like, no, you pretend that didn't happen. You gotta play one more. You didn't really play 3.
Yeah, that they're like, what are we doing at a tie? And I was like, you got to go back and do that. Game over. It's like it never happened.
Yeah,
go, I didn't know that. I was like,
it's a glitch in the matrix. It didn't happen.
It feels weird though, because like as veterans of the team-based format, stuff that you would think, and stuff that you would like kind of have gotten to know because you've done this routine, the same song and dance for at least a year. Trying to go back and be like, actually, this is what you're supposed to do. The rules state we have to do it this way. It can get a little jarring to newer players. So I'm really happy that like newer players jumped in. I'm especially happy that they joined up with us, and they just, even on the Diener Don't Care, our field, I recruited somebody for the field special, or not, for the Ultra League specialist as a backup. I put them in the field, and now they're a staple.
Yeah, well, and that's the great part, right? Is getting to grow the family, grow the community.
Yep. And so, Pogoats, SoCal Swablu Coastal, best of luck to y'all in the playoffs, and hopefully we can see where y'all end up.
And we gotta do one more Swablu in a row shout out before there's a little break.
Oh yeah, there's blue.
Yeah.
All right, so this is pool number 4. Pool number 4, we had Blouses getting the bye and Synchronoise getting the second bye. The Bad Mewtwo's win 17-4 against NEP Legends, and SoCal Swablu Blue defeats NM PvP 13-8. Bad Mewtwo's and SoCal Swablu Blue lock up the 1-2 seed. Blouses is on the outside looking in by 1 game loss and 1 match point.
Let's see.
So that's the unfortunate way that this would go about it. But I think with a 5-2 record, Blouses might be in the running to be one of the teams that might get promoted based on their performance in their pool, like into the ace tier if there's any left over.
Yeah, especially if that's how they handle it, because their 2 losses are to Swablu Blue and Bad Mewtwo's, and again, I don't mind that where it's.
I would probably say though, but those buys might hurt them a little bit. Once again, this is just going to be based on how the staff is going to treat buys.
Yeah, well, and again, it's not like it's something they had control over, so it feels weird to punish it at the same time.
Right. So that's why it's going to be a little bit of a gray area on it. Once again, best luck to the staff for doing that, because I mean, you know me. If you had a buy, I'd be like, well, your points are worth less to me. But once again, they didn't have any control over that. So with that, let's go ahead and move on into pool number 5.
And this was one of the closer ones going into the last few rounds.
All right.
You actually had a few teams that were looking at that second spot hungrily.
Yeah, honestly, looking at this, the top, I would hate to be in this pool. You had LU Origins defeating the Bravest Birds 17-4. Spices Right got the bye. Weekend at Burmese beats Bell's Angels 17-4, and then Antimatter Go defeats the Grievard Underdogs 12-9.
And that was the one that mattered, right? Like, if Grievard takes that by the same amount, then they get the second slot.
Yeah, Weekend at Burmese. Oh no! Wait, you're right. Wait, no.
Yeah.
Hold up. We'll get the PowerPoint under control. Wait, hold on.
No.
So
the arrow keys.
Yeah, so if Antimatter Go lost, they would be 5-2.
Correct.
And they would have 83 wins, and Weekend at Burmese would have 86 wins. So Weekend at Burmese would take the second spot over Antimatter Go.
Right. Yeah, so it would have at least been a toss up between 3 teams instead of like looking as formal as it is. This might actually be our first. Like, I mean, granted there is a bye involved, but like have the wins in order. Like each team had a unique amount of wins.
Oh, dang! Thanks for catching that. I never would have noticed it.
Well, and that was just because we were looking at kind of playing with the scores a little bit, but yeah. So Grievard would have needed to take the round 15-6 to tie up Burmese, and then who had the head-to-head in Grievard Burmese?
This is pulling 5.
Burmese did, yeah, that was round 5. So
okay.
So yeah, in the event that Grievard won, Burmese would have had second place. We would have had 3 5-2 teams.
Or maximum chaos.
Yeah, this makes it very clean though.
All right. Now,
and we have what looks like an impressive score at the 7-0, 104 points, and until we get to pool 7.
we gotta talk about pool number 6 first, because
yeah. Well, I'm just shouting it out that we had, our first or one of the few teams with over 100 points. So,
speaking of 100 points,
yeah, on the nose.
We had SoCal Swablu Gold defeating the Algorithm 17-4. Charm City Cherums got the bye.
Sorry, what?
17-4.
Yeah, but which Swablu team is this?
Oh, San Diego.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Look, it's hard to keep track of all of them. You can name it with colors, letters, alphanumeric, Cyrillic alphabet. I will still mess it up somehow.
I was like, we're not getting away with calling the home team the gold team.
Wing Attack defeats the Snowbirds 13-8, and then finally, well, Born from Ashes got a bye because Notorious knocked Owls. That profile picture is still so weird. I love it. I love it, but at what cost? Like,
yeah. Well, and I know we already talked about it, but it was part of why we knew for a fact that Wing Attack couldn't catch up.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate part. So Wing Attack is going to be staying in open next cycle. Riblet, I'm sorry, man. Like Riblet, Motix, Rurik Master, we gotta sit down and have a chat.
Well, and at least they're in good company with some of the other teams that have to do open again.
Yeah, I think their only 2 losses were against Born from Ashes and SoCal Swablu.
Yep.
Yep, both were 11-10s.
Well, and you look at Wing Attack, and they're just, along with, some other notable teams, poster child for we're gonna take you out of open and put you into a tier.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see what they do with that.
Yeah, and in this scenario, I think Wing Attack would probably go on another tear, joining Ann Arbor Arbok as well as Weekend at Burmese and Grievard Underdogs. It's gonna be a who's who next cycle, and I'm gonna be very scared if you're an open team. Or at least I would be scared.
Yeah, well, and that is the reality of open tier sometimes, is whether it's just some top tier players under a new banner or whatever the situation may be. That was always the danger, is it was the Wild West.
Right.
And we're continuing that tradition.
Yeah. All right. So the PowerPoint finally did it correctly. Moving on into pool number 7, we have Weedle Knievel defeating Electric City 17-4. Island Guardians defeats Singapore Dragons 14-7. Wing Attack 2 defeats PBN Jelly 15-6. And the game of the week, Elite TMs defeats Beginner to Winner 13-8. So
and here we have the top 2 scores.
Yeah, Elite TMs and Beginner to Winner were playing for essentially who could get the higher score on each other.
Yeah, it was. I feel really bad. Well, and you talk about a tier that had no bye, and this is the bloodbath that can occur. Is you can just have very obvious kind of strata within the tier itself, where it was pretty obvious who was moving on.
So despite that, low, quote unquote, low score in 13-8, Elite TMs were still able to pull off an 83% win percentage, which is something we have not seen since Brave Nerds being in bronze tier.
Well, and to put that in perspective, Elite TMs outside of this week, so weeks 1 through 6 went 17-4 or better.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to make a case for that overall number one seed, and without a doubt,
that's what happens when the world champion team is in open tier.
Without a doubt, I think Elite TMs deserves that number one slot, number one seed. Just Elite TMs number one. I forgot the other teams.
I think that puts Beginner to Winner at 2, though. Like, I think they are 1-2 overall for score.
What? But then the question is, would you put a 6-1 team over like somebody that won their seed, like or won their pool, like say the Cool Cats?
In my opinion, I guess probably not. Just like you would still follow the convention, but
I would say, in my opinion, the answer might be a definite maybe because we would need to look at like strength of pools. I said definitely maybe, obviously, but like
I think we keep with the.
But like if you follow the protocol, you know,
yeah,
one seed gets like, if you win the pool, you get one of the top 7 seeds, obviously.
Well, it's not just about winning the pool, right? It's about your overall win-loss match-wise, and that I think is a different thing from winning the pool. Like I think the 7-0 teams, and then on score, and then the 6-1 teams, and then on score, and like through that way. Like I don't think winning a pool should automatically get you the same weight as the ones that are sweeping.
See, so the way I kind of looked at it is whether, like, say you went 6-1 in a pool or 7-0 in a pool. If you won your pool, you got one of the top 7 seeds, and then like if you went 6-1, you were automatically the 7th seed because the other teams that went 7-0 in the other 6 pools.
But that didn't happen.
Yeah, right. I'm saying in general, that's what I'm thinking, or that's what I was thinking in this case. I think team beginner and winner in this case, since they came in second in their pool, they would probably be like the 8th seed.
I am going to be surprised that if it looks like that, where I don't think the placement in the pool is going to be worth as much. But again, if that's something they've already talked about and is just how it's working, like okay, whatever. These teams know they have to still play out in playoffs. Like they know they're not done. Like this was the formality, right? Is lock up first or second, and then the real fight starts.
So team beginner and winner outscored the winner of pool 6, 5, 4, 2, and 1.
Yeah.
So only pool 3 with Pogoats where they were outscored by a pool winner, and that's for a 6-1 team.
Right, and that's more what I'm talking about. Is to me it makes sense to just have it be by score and then points, but you're looking at 14 teams that are like ready to go, right? Like they have proven that they don't belong in open. They have proven that they deserve this whole accelerated placement playoff. So
now the question is going to become, where are they going to land?
Well, and I mean that is now like, to once again borrow the pun, like the water gets real muddy because we're not even sure like how that looks exactly, like because there's 6 tiers.
So
they don't, so that already isn't dividing evenly, right? So it's just like something has to happen a little tricky.
I think the overall 1 and 2 seeds, which would be in this case Elite TMs and Pogoats, if we're going off of the criteria for the Battle Frontier announcements that was sent on the 18th. Criteria determine placement within their pool, and then fewest bout losses, and then battle win losses. That just shows you who gets in. But in terms of seeding, if they went by like what you said, pool play, overall record, and then win, and then like wins overall, then it would be Elite TM's number 1 seed, Pogo's number 2 seed, and they would be getting a bye into the they'd be getting a bye while the other teams would fight battle to battle to break it down from 14 to 8 to 4 to 2.
Is the playoff not like what we did? Is it actually single elimination?
Probably not.
I definitely assume they're playing it out just like how we did over the 4 weeks.
Your idea probably makes better sense. I was thinking of it in terms of like single elimination because I've had too much main series gameplay on the brain, and that's what they do. They do their Swiss battles, and they do a top cut, and it's single elimination.
Yeah, well, and even maybe double elimination gives you enough to have an idea where to put people, but just because we've already been through the version of 4 weeks where you just play and your score determines where you land. Like I'm imagining something that mirrors what we experienced in the first cycle.
Okay, I gotta see how that works.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think this is a natural stopping point for us to take a quick break, stretch our legs.
pretend we're human.
Yeah. Wait, you mean there's more to the world than these 4 walls in my office?
What 4 walls? There's only 1 wall.
Alrighty, so with the final wrap up of the regular season, that's what I'm calling it, is now in the books. We are going to take a very quick commercial break, but we will be right back after these messages.
You'll never know how quick it was, actually.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Battle Frontier competitors. With the Battle Frontier expanding to encompass all regions, Enter the Dragonair's Den is also expanding. We will be looking for some extra help to give each region the love that they so well deserve. We'll be looking for at least 2 hosts for a region in the APAC region, EMEA region, and LATAM region. If you are interested, please fill out the Google form or send a DM to myself, TacoDog8, who will then send you said Google form. Experience in podcasting is not necessary, so don't feel like you need it. Submissions will close Sunday, March 31st, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. There will be a post in the Battle Frontier soon that will give you the local time. We can't wait to hear from you. And as always, keep your dragon fangs sharp. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that commercial break, because I know I did.
That's just the stretch I needed.
Honestly, yes. Always remember, kids and trainers, when you're battling, or if you're sitting at a computer for a long period of time, get up and stretch. Your body will
hydration checks matter.
Yeah. Hydrate. I know you've seen Jet do it through the show, and I've started doing it towards the latter part of the show.
I feel like there's probably as much view of me just like sitting as there is of me drinking something.
I think on the next episode, when I'm gonna ask the editor to count how many times that you or me take a drink while the other one is talking. we like to promote hydration here.
I feel like it's been just a huge effort on my part not to show off my red panda mug.
Oh my goodness, that is such a cute mug. I want
Isn't it great?
Yes. What does it say on the back?
San
Diego Zoo and Safari Park. Aw.
Your classic branding.
Oh wait, that's right. I remember from your Trainer's Eyes episode, you play next to a zoo, right? Or near a zoo?
Yeah, so historically we did a number of like community days down at Balboa Park, which is where the zoo is, but like one of my favorite places in the world is, it's now called the Safari Park, but I grew up with it being called the Wild Animal Park, and that's where we went recently with when my sister was visiting. Gotcha.
Okay. Awesome. So, alrighty. So with that, we got to move into the housekeeping part of the show. This is where I apparently should write a script, but I refuse to because I like the wing thing. So,
well, at very least, we should make a list of like all of the places we exist on the internet now.
Yes. Okay, so firstly, this podcast is powered by you, the listener, the watcher, the viewer, the viewer. Okay, we do have, yes, we do have a Patreon. The Patreon link is going to be listed down there in the show notes / video description / doobly-doo / everything else. You can support the show for as little as $1. That gets you access to the Dragon Egg tier. Excuse me. You get to get access to a super secret part of the Discord where we can just chat with y'all and hang out. It's starting to grow more, and honestly, it's a lot of fun. We do want to take this time to shout out our Dragon Egg tier patrons. Thanks Obama, ZT Smith, Sotiri, and DFI250. Their contributions help us keep the digital lights on and make sure that our editor is fed something other than gummy bears and Oreos. I've now upgraded him to peanut butter. He is fine. He has his favorite CD playing. Everything is okay.
Part of a balanced meal.
The peanut butter gives protein. The gummy bears, I'm just not giving him the sugar-free ones because that's inhumane.
Yeah, that would be actual torture.
Then we do have the Dragon Egg, the $5 tier, where you can get access to the recording booth chat, where you can chat with us in real time. Of course, you have to be typing because we are recording. And you can fact check us in real time. Currently, our Baby Dragon tier, we have Reviving Ophelia and Herm13, our newest patron. Which he gave me some amazing insight into why there's beginner to winner Trez and beginner to winner Does. Which, to make a long story incredibly short, and I'm going to be oversimplifying it, the players that were on the team kind of either retired or went on to other opportunities. So the team is there, it's just not in use per se. That's the only thing I can really comment on.
So the ominous omission of Dose is not as ominous as historically when you actually know.
Yeah.
In fact, not that crazy.
Yes, absolutely. So we also do have a YouTube channel where, the video portion of this will be live on Saturdays. We are Into the Dragonair's Den. That's our channel. Feel free to give us a like and subscribe, turn notifications on, insert other YouTube buzzwords here. If you're listening to us, comment, yes. If you're listening to other places listening to us on other platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, please give us a follow there and a show rating. It really helps us out. And it's also free. Giving a rating is completely and utterly free, and it helps us out. And you can share the word with your friends because, we like to grow, and, we've been seeing the number go up. I am pleased to announce that we just crossed the 3,500 plays over the lifetime of this podcast, so I'm very happy and thankful for each and every one of you that have tuned in over the years that we've been here. I've always said this. I honestly thought this podcast was only going to last after the first cycle that we did with Sylph, and then we were never going to do this again. And now it has kind of grown into this thing, and a lot of people will message me, hey, when we play, it's I'm a fan of the pod, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I love you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
that might be the most surprising thing is that. Oh yeah, by the way.
And it's not even that. It's just kind of I'll talk about it. And yeah, I have a podcast. I'm oh wait, you're Taco Dog. I love your podcast. I was like, thank you. I'm sorry we have to play against each other, and I have to show that I'm not the worst battler in the world. But
you're that taco truck guy.
I will have my revenge, Ryan Swag. Oh wait, no, I beat him and played Pokemon. We also do have a Twitter /X. We are at Dragonair Den. You can follow us there for updates on the show, updates on the teams, how they're doing. You can also follow me. I am at TacoDog_8. be very, very warned. If you follow me, I will post memes, RuneScape, Pokemon, and just whatever pops into my head during that time. It is very random, and that's okay.
I exist on Discord.
I was going to say, speaking on Discord, you can also find Jet there. We also do have a Discord that is free. Come in, read the rules, tap on the taco to get access to the rest of the server, and hang out there. It's honestly a fun time. We have players from the highest of legendary tier all the way down in the open tier, and we just kind of hang out. We'll rag on each other a little bit, but at the end of the day, we all exist to play Pokemon and enjoy this 8-year-old game with spaghetti code.
Yep.
The amazing music that you hear is by another content creator known as Zame on YouTube. Amazing video game composer, does great remixes, and I couldn't find a better video game composer if I wanted to. He's really good.
One-stop shop.
Yeah. Alrighty. So with that, we're gonna get into our community engagement section, where we ask you a question. Feel free to reply back to us wherever you listen to the podcast. So, last week, we asked you, what were your thoughts on the metas this cycle? Did you love them? Did you hate them? Would you have changed anything? We had 3 replies on Discord, where Moist Donut, fellow teammate, captain of the show, said, meh. I think it's because he didn't do so well in his team slot. If only he beat the captain. If only he beat the captain that he challenged.
Coming in with some heat.
Look, I'm gonna lower the fact that I fought against him and I retained my captainship until he challenges me again, and then he inevitably beats me.
It was an epic series.
7-8 final score. Oh, that was fun. So. Second one was friend of the show, Heart of Mystic, captain of the Backstage Battlers, amazing battler, super nice person too. She said, I think they were fairly balanced, honestly. I would probably disagree and say that Primordial and Serene were a little more centralized towards the latter half of the field. But Enchanted was also super centralizing with, the 3 teams on the meta usage chart was over 50%.
Well, and I guess that then is perhaps a question for you another time, because I know we want to get through stuff, but like, what balanced means to you, like, is now a question that I have for you personally. But we like
under 35%.
We can tackle that another time.
The short answer I'll give is under 35% usage.
So for you, a balanced meta is one that has
no more than 40.
Less centralization, I guess, is
yeah, like
what you're saying?
Yeah, a less centralized meta with, like, say the top usage mon is on less than, say, 40% of the teams. Where it's like, you don't need this mon on your team to succeed. You can use a substitute like this mon and kind of go from there. Now, I know to each their own, some would say, centralized meta is the way to go, because if you have these 6 mons, you can just have fun with them and use them, and it's less resource intensive. Others would say, if it's more centralized and you only use these 6 mon, there's nothing you can use to break the mold. Ember.
So for me, it's less about the top end as much as like how far down the list you can get and still be like, just as a benchmark, the PB Poke score of 80 is kind of what I look at as these are all fully usable Pokemon. Like there might be some that are strictly better than others more of the time, but they're not like questionably usable, right? And
yeah,
so like for Serene, for example, that has 71 Pokemon on it, which is actually kind of crazy. that's a lot to be rated that highly. Primordial is actually the same. It's at 72 is the crossover, and just for a point of contrast, I guess the Open Great League obviously has way more Pokemon available, but like
it's like how you build it is going to be like
that's something like 260, but like again, there's once you take the filter off, like there's a lot more things that are good against high ranked stuff, and so like they still have a place right in the meta, and maybe Enchanted will break this a little bit. I wish I had like one of the old metas to look at, like, or like one of the silly ones, like the GBL ones where it's just like fighting or Electric Cup, where it's like, oh, you have 10 Pokemon that are over 80 score or something like that.
That's super centralizing right there.
And I mean, maybe the surprising thing is that Enchanted actually has 113 at 80 score or better.
Dang.
So
I didn't look at it that way.
The fact that it's been as centralized as it is, like this is one of those questions where are the usage stats like kind of affecting usage? where is it like it folds back in on itself kind of deal?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But very interesting. I did not think to look at it that way. So, but now we get to the fun part. We have also friend of the show, Naked Hornet.
Yeah, might as well big shout out Naked Hornet for jumping in, giving us some of our most thorough question answers, like just consistently.
Oh yeah, 100%. So the Naked Hornet, I mean, he also gives like a very amazing like deep dives per se, and I try to read everything word for word, but I would run out of breath. So he prefaces it by saying,
"Do your best."
Yeah. So he prefaces it by saying, "I mostly have my own team's perspectives as I am holding the fort in Master League, but from my observation and asking, it looks like in the Enchanted Field," he broke it down. So in the Enchanted Field, the UL Specialist at the beginning was a big fan of this. And then Meta Burnout, of course, did its thing. He enjoyed the different spins everyone managed to put on in team building, where he felt everything was kind of unique. People talked up Enchanted from what I've heard, and it delivered. In the Serene, if the domains had 4 Serene slots, we would have 5 people wanting to play it. Serene delivered well on the slow, bulky premise, but games felt largely defined by the presence or absence of Alolan Raichu. I think Raichu might have been Alolan Raichu might have been an unintended consequence of that. Oh wait, no, it was allowed, if I remember correctly. Like it was a whitelisted mon. And I'll be corrected at the end of it, but I'm gonna continue. Continue reading.
It was always part of the meta, and I mean, like I can speak to it just because like that was my slot, but especially as an Alolan Raichu enjoyer, it made my decision making a lot easier when an opposing team, even if they had stuff that did beat Alolan Raichu, if they didn't have a ground type, like just having the freedom to run the full electric set and not even blink, it was like just so freeing. It was like nothing actually wants to take a wild charge.
Yeah, because even the most bulky mons were still gonna get hit pretty hard from it,
especially when most of them were water, like excluding the grounds, obviously, as I was saying before, where it's like, yeah, Diggersby is you're always gonna lose to it, like even if you've got 2 grass knots banked, I think was how that worked. It's just you can't muscle through the bunner.
Yeah,
but yeah,
And then finally in the primordial slot, he stated, I saw this one the least, but it did feel like a nice successor to Primeval without the specter of Lantern hanging over it. Every draft I made ended up some sort of triple rock behemoth, yet not absurdly weak to or toothless against anything particular. My impression was that smart or aggressive shield usage could dictate how the matchup unfolded, but you weren't necessarily deep in trouble the minute you used all of them up. Looking at the primordial matches, it very much felt like there was two camps. One was the fast move pressure, like, counter powder snow to a point. Like, I know you use powder snow for like energy generation, but like Frostlass, if you lined it up a Frostlass against, if you locked in Frostlass against, like, say, a Flygon or a Dragon type, it was gonna be painful.
And that might be your point, right? Is that as much as Powder Snow is an energy generating move, the Pokemon that were running it were attack weighted enough that it felt like fast move pressure.
Yeah, right. And then the other one was like, also there was Dragon Tail Flygon or Mudshot Flygon, which both were legitimate. Like, you didn't know if you brought a Flygon, if you're like, oh, it's gonna run this or it's gonna run this until it hit the field. Because against the rest of the meta that is not named Dedenne, you want Dragon Tail. But if the Dedenne is there, do you want to run the Mudshot for the energy generating? Do you want to just spam out Scorching Sands? Like, it was very, very, very interesting to see, like, watch my boy Flygon, best Pokemon of all time right here, succeed.
Well, and I found it surprising that even though Credillia and Sudowoodo were on almost every team, that the games that I saw, a lot of them didn't end up using them very often, or like together, or like it was not like you always had to use them. Even like they were obviously a big part of the conversation, a big part of team building, but when it came to the actual games, there were several times where they just didn't show up because they weren't the ones like making the difference at the end of the day. Like, yeah. as far as the ones that were either the biggest thorns for the opposing team or the biggest answers to those thorns, where it's like because like you knew they were going to be on a team, it was something that you needed answers for. And so there was always a little bit of a like, can I get away with using it? I mean, yeah, it's even its losses like aren't that bad, but when you see a loss on paper, there's something psychological that happens, right? And that is like a big takeaway I had just in this cycle in general, is that seeing a 1-5 on a matrix isn't necessarily a bad thing if that score is still like 400 or whatever, where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, these are all losses, but they're super soft and I can take some good energy off of whatever is left of the Pokemon that's still standing, right? Like, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And there was so much of that in Primordial, especially when you, like you were saying, you have these kind of where damage meets energy Pokemon, where just a little bit of energy on the Frostlass, like we've all been there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Okay, so that was our answers for I just made a team with Flygon for my cup on Saturday.
Ooh.
I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna run it. Anyway, so we're now gonna follow it up with this week's question of, we talk a lot about, teams and ones we like to follow. We kind of want to know, if you're in the playoffs, you're, I guess, excused from answering this question, or you can choose your own. But which team or teams will you be following in the playoffs, and why? Do you have like a friend of yours on that team? Is it a sister team? Or are you like, say, part of the SoCal and you just want to show that you're the top SoCal Swablu team? Who knows?
Well, and I want to kind of steal that answer, right? Where I think there's not a small number of people eager to see how the Swablu's end up, like, just compared to each other.
Right.
Because, you know, there were a lot of assumptions just in the way that they were set up in Sylph. Like, there was an order to them. They were just kind of first team, second team, third team, fourth team. But now they can actually battle it out, and there's just something deeply exciting about that.
Yeah, I can honestly agree to that, especially because I was the one calling like SoCal Swablu San Diego the C team for the longest time. But I will, in my defense, you know, when you call your first team SoCal Swablu Gold and then your second team is SoCal Swablu Blue, B team, and then San Diego C team, San Diego.
Sandy.
Like, yeah, so
I don't know.
It's hard.
Oh
So,
no, but then Coastal, is that the C team?
Maybe. But no, so thankfully I was educated thoroughly, and I can move past the past mistakes, I would say. So this week I would probably say I will personally be following, it sounds like a cop-out, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Let's see how far Elite TMs takes it. Because even though they were very dominant in their pool and they were the final Sylph World Champions, I think that there may be, you know, one of these Dark Horse teams could probably pull the upset on them. But I'm going to be watching it closely.
And you have like a bunch of these teams who have competed against each other historically, right? So it's just, okay, which two of these teams go to Legendary tier?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with all of these teams, I wouldn't want to fight against a good number of them if they ended up in ours. It's the way it goes sometimes, so.
Well, you know, at least two of them are ending up in ours, so.
We got to bring our A games.
Future.
Yeah, we'll have to bring our A games during those weeks.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow.
So, with that being said, let us know. Who's your favorite team that you're going to be following during the playoffs? Feel free to answer it on YouTube or Spotify, or even answer it on Twitter. Feel free to tweet at the show. We will heart. With that being said, it's now time for our Play Pokemon segment. And as I mentioned 5 minutes ago, I just built my team, and now I got to practice with it for my last cup in Iowa City. Because I'm leaving. I'm moving. We'll get to that at the very end of the show. If you're in the Iowa City area at Critical Hit Games on March 30th, registration starting at 4 p.m., there will be a local cup. There is also a raid train during that time, and the downtown Iowa City area does have a lot of gyms, so there will probably be a Shadow Mewtwo during that time.
Oh, right, Shadow Mewtwo.
Yeah.
I was like, who are they?
Yeah, they wanted to do a raid train. I said, I'm out. The local cup, as you all know, first prize is 50 championship points. That once you accumulate 500 and go, you secure a spot to the World Championships in Hawaii. Of course, that doesn't mean you stop at 500. You can go as high as you want to, make the top 8. Guess what? You can get a travel award to get you sent out there. Extra information will be located at the Play Pokemon events. Feel free to Google that or Bing it or wherever you look at your DuckDuckGo it if you use that search engine.
Bing it.
I will be there hanging out and doing my best to try to win at least one cup before I go to Texas for the next 5 to 6 months. Send help.
I'm disputing it.
I 100% would definitely do it, but things happen. We'll get to it at the very end of the show. In the regional segment, we had Lyle Jeffs winning Vancouver, defending his home turf as the Canadian. will invade Canada yet. So now he is a 2-time championship winner, and if I understand it correctly, Jet, you had some friends. We had some friends participating out there as well.
Yeah, we had several friends playing, like including some Swablues. So it was great fun to see them make it to day 2 or just on stream and be able to root them on. And always great to see any of the personal connections make it and do well, especially.
And yeah, so that's honestly amazing. We had 2 teammates. We had Zimmy Kid and Jiao Longbao competing. They weren't in the same pool, but unfortunately they did not get a chance to face off each other in day 2. It was a bit of a rough.
It was a step in the right direction, because every other time they've been in the same pool.
Yeah. It was a bit of an unfortunate early exit for both the Dinair crews, or both the Dinair teammates, but just the fact that they were out there doing these things and beating people, that's honestly the best thing that I would recommend. Second thing is, this is public domain or public knowledge because they have the leaderboards, and I am super proud to announce this. Zimmy Kid, the man, the myth, the Surfetch legend, the legend of the Onion Turtle Master. Sorry, Onion Duck Master. Don't give me that look. Has qualified for Worlds.
Don't eat turtles.
Yeah.
It's all bad news.
So Zimmy has qualified for Worlds in an amazing... He got the 500 points over the weekend. And we are going to cheer him on as much as possible out in Hawaii.
He did it in style too. That was a huge win, especially when you have all those people out for the regional. Like, when they can then show up for the cup, like that's such a big way to get over the line.
Yeah, his road in Top Cut, he had to fight Spartan L17, SS Thorn, and Jay Brands, who I know Jay Brands is a phenomenal battler. I think on the Canadian... No, he's on the Deoxys team, right? Because he's on either Canadian Shieldon or Deoxys Alberta Forum.
I'm bad at this game, so your guess is probably better than mine.
I believe I fought SS Thorn back in the Sylph days, and he would absolutely mop the floor with me. Like... So he has qualified. He did it. We appreciate everything he's done, and I'm trying my best not to, like, what's the word? Turn this second part into like a "We Love Zimmy," but I honestly, I don't care. Like, I honestly don't care. I love the fact that he made it. He deserves it. He's the best battler, and I said it before. He was the best battler. It hadn't made day 2 at the time, and he made it. The man doesn't know the meaning of the word "you can." Like, he will continue to battle his way to the top. So all you other regional competitors, watch out, because he's coming.
Well, and he has done such a good job just continuing to show up and get points at every level that he could. Like, obviously we don't have our international until the very end of the season, which puts so much pressure on people if you still need points, but
yeah,
just to be getting cup and challenge wins against his local community, and then even the ones that he's been traveling to, like, there are very few, and I think this is the biggest difference now that we're in the stage of the game that we are. I feel like there are very few even local tournaments that are like gimme wins, where in Self, at least when it was in person, there were definitely places, or remote also, that you could kind of like game the system a little bit and say, hey, there's not a heavyweight attending this community's tournaments usually, so I can just show up and do pretty well most of the time. And this is not that. Like, pretty much every local tournament has regional, if not finalists or champions, like top 8, and that's just something that should not be taken for granted is that even winning the locals is not like a given.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree with you. I would say like my local is mainly TCG based, but there's this one TCG player who got like top 4 in Pittsburgh, has picked up Go, and is now one of the one of the premier heavy hitters in my local community. And it always goes back and forth. Either I'll win a challenge, he'll win a challenge, or like the guy that also plays the main series games. He's a main series heavyweight. He'll win the challenge, and we just go and battle each other. And then, of course, we'll beat each. It's funny. Sometimes I'll beat him in the main series, and then he'll beat me in Go, and then I'll lose in the TCG to him. And so it's just a mismatch of things.
The cross competition is fierce.
Yeah. Recently, though, ever since Home Slice Henry started showing up to our local events, he's dominated, and so now we're trying to raise the stakes a little bit.
Well, and before we move on into our final stuff, I do want to shout out the great people who made day 2 at Vancouver, because it was great to be able to cheer on literally everyone in losers fight, or at least a competitor in every single losers final match, and then heartbreaking that they all lost. But I mean, yeah, big shout out to Meepy and Dapper and Magmar and Mushroom. It's great showing.
Definitely, very much. Give you the hats off. I tip my hat to y'all. Keep doing what you're doing, battlers. You all are getting better. And even those that, like, you know, say went 0-2 or like 1-3, didn't do so well on day 1. Keep grinding. You'll get there. You're a phenomenal battler. Sometimes you may have just had an off day.
Well, and everything that I said about the locals applies double to the regionals, right? Like, people are there for the championship points, and you mentioned the travel stipend, like that matters. Like that is a significant money for the people wanting to attend Hawaii. So
yeah,
like they are there to make it like feasible, right? And the other part is just the math, right? Like, after round 1, a quarter, like winners and losers round 1, like a quarter of all players are just out, and that's just the math.
Yeah. And speaking of the math, if you win, if you get your cap on points for cups and go challenges, you get 390 points, and that's already more than halfway to getting a spot at Worlds. So it's very doable. The hardest part is doing well enough at regionals to take points home.
Obviously, it helps if you can get yourself more opportunities, like just attend more regionals or international, or just like the special events. But
yeah,
making the most of what's available is like it's all a personal journey. Like your path doesn't look like anyone else's.
Yeah. So with that, let us now move into the salsa bar / where is the bacon? So first I gotta ask you, Jet, have you received the bacon?
The bacon is MIA.
The bacon is MIA. What are you at now? Oh, you updated the number.
I did, and it is a nice little lovely palindrome of 1661.
I believe in you. Wait, what was the number?
So,
I don't remember what I said.
So I think we got over your initial guesstimate, or like, because you had kind of a weird like box graph, right, where it was either before 1650 or after 2500 or something like that.
Okay, so we're in the box.
Yeah, we're inside the no taco zone.
Okay, I can respect that.
But yeah,
all right.
So the little hiking trail by my house that goes over to the local lake pond thing was a lechonk nest this week, so decent number of checks. And at this point, like, it is funny enough to me that I almost just don't want to find one, and I wonder if that will get me one faster.
That's fair. That's also kind of rough though. So I have faith in you that you'll get it just after the box.
Oh yeah. Back in your betting zone.
Yes. Absolutely. So salsa bar wise, what did I do that was I guess I don't really entirely know. It was kind of a quiet week. I guess there was one time I went to a local restaurant, one that I hadn't been to in a while, and I tried a sauce that did not agree with my stomach. But it was a really good sauce. I think it was like a...
It was just too saucy.
It was very, very saucy. I hated it, but it tasted so good. I regretted it. I loved it at the time, and then I got home, and then I regretted it. But then I went
regret.
Yeah, then I went back the next week for some more. So Taco just doesn't learn his lesson.
It's for science. It's that happened one time. Let's see if it happens every time.
Remember, the difference between screwing around and science is writing it down.
And repeatability.
That's it. So that was the salsa bar. I don't really have too much because I mean I think I've gotten my stuff together, so now I'm just kind of doing a thing. I don't go out of my way to do something stupid.
I don't think you ever did.
It just happens. All right, achievement time.
The stories.
Oh, there's your floor for the Zerberg.
Yeah.
I see it now. All right, so 2 achievements this week. We had, of course, the one I mentioned at the top of the show. I got the perfect Groudon, and I had to use a Master Ball for it. And then Danny promptly told me to transfer it. And then I was riding my bike, and I was just trying to reply to it, but then I was just like, no, I gotta focus on riding my bike. And he's like, if you can type, you can record you transferring it. And then you get the Taco Perfect, the 10-10-10, which, before I forget, in my local community, I did an EX raid. For those of you that know, they're the elite raids, but you had to be invited to them. And in my first ever Mewtwo raid, I didn't know I got it. I was like, I don't care what the IVs are in this. It's perfect to me. But when I caught it, it was 10-10-10. This was back in 2018. Yeah, 2018. And so now whenever somebody gets a 10-10-10, they call it a Taco Perfect. So if you have a 10-10-10 out there, answer Taco Perfect.
Well, if we want to actually shout someone out, Downey got a 96 Zerd, so that's a bit better.
Yeah, we'll shout out Danny. Amazing dude.
I'm not sad about my shiny full baby. Like that was fine.
Where'd you put it? Oh, there it is. You put it in random
just in spawns, yeah.
Yeah. And then you also got a 1/0/0 shiny Shroomish.
It's good, right?
Yeah, you were on it.
But I mean, to a certain extent, it's the universe balancing itself out, right? After last week's double shutdown.
Yeah. Okay, so GBL progress. I'll go first because mine's gonna be short and sweet to the point. I didn't work at it. Not this week. And
yeah. Well, and I mean, I played a couple sets. Just I was feeling inspired by the suite of Vancouver battlers, and then also now that we're done with our cycle and we've got quite a bit of downtime, it's like I guess I should do this GBL thing if I want to get some battles in. And I also saw that we officially have our first legend of the season, so it also is like actually climbable, which is the other thing that I don't love about the time after I hit rank 20. Like,
yeah, I hate it.
In the first part of the season is then there's just so many people in the 2,000 to 2,300 range, just like melting potting, where it's like, okay, yeah, not fun for me to essentially go hard to go 50%, where it's like, I don't need that. So I do like that they've added more of the season with triple dust. Like, that is nice, but I'm looking forward now to, jumping back in, playing open and then jungle, seeing some of the new stuff in action.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's not going to be too bad.
What else do we have? We have Ultra Premiere.
Now that's going to be a fun one. No legendaries, no Giratinas, no Parisian, no Kabalion,
no Cress,
oh, thank goodness,
no Reggie.
That'll be a fun one.
We have a while until Master Premiere. That's the other one that I think will be interesting. Great League Remix. Also, I haven't checked out like what is
I
actually.
I need to get my Excadrill. I remember I ran an Excadrill. No, I ran a Mamoswine, Dragonite, and what's it called? Togekiss line. Should be fun.
Yeah.
Until there's a Goodra that pops up and.
Well, and that'll maybe matter when we find out what our April community day is.
Right.
I'm gonna say it here just because I feel like there's a strong chance we find out in the next week what it is.
What are you saying?
When we were looking at like potentials earlier,
I'm calling it. It's gonna be Bon Sweet.
I like that version probably the best. My fear is like out of the new shinies we get something like Picky Peck or
oh no,
or like they do a wide Go-Goat release.
Oh wait, no, please no.
Yeah. So yeah, I like just if we're staying in Alola, Picky Peck, and like we talked about earlier, just with before the show, kind of the pipe dream that is Hone Edge, like that would be actually nuts.
Yeah. I don't think that'll ever happen. But I mean, hey, weirder things have happened.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it'll be really cool whenever it shows up, but I think they'll milk it. I don't think they'll go straight to shiny for that one.
Yeah, no, they'll probably do Honedge like at a Halloween event because they always like to unveil new ghost types around that time.
Yeah, well, and that's a for better or worse thing also, is like any ghost, like they just think they can line them up for Halloween instead of rolling them out at a decent rate.
But it works. It's not supposed to work, but it works.
I mean, sort of, except I feel like there was one of the past three where they didn't even do a new one, where it's like, what the heck? Like, give us one of the new ghosts. Like, why are you being annoying about this?
Right. All right. So, with that, we have arrived at the end of the show, and I do have to make this announcement. At least at some point. So, starting in May, we will be on a very brief we'll be on extended hiatus and doing video versions of the podcast. Unfortunately, due to some personal matters, I have to go to Texas for about 4 to 6 months, and I can't bring my computer with me, so I will be doing a lot of the recording and stuff via my tablet. I am a little sad to announce it, but at the same time, it's something that has to be done.
That sounds like you're gonna go kill someone. Anyway.
No. But yeah, it does have to be done. I'm very sad that it has to, but you know, it gets to be about that time, and it's something that, you know, it's always in the back of your mind, and you go and you do what you can, and you go from there. So rest assured that we'll still be pumping out the audio versions of the podcast on all the platforms. We will just not be uploading to YouTube starting in May. I anticipate that we can start uploading again in September at the earliest. If anything does change, well, follow the Twitter. But on a very serious note, if anything does change, we will make an announcement in the Enter the Dragonair's Den Discord.
It'll be an adventure.
Oh, it definitely will. So, with that being said, always remember, keep those dragon fangs sharp, stay away from those stereotypes, and until next time, we will see you all in our next episode. Bye-bye.
For playoffs.